onto the YouTube, but I think I'm also talking in a rather special voice channel, which some people might drop into later in the stream. That'll be exciting. Here we are, we're live. I think things are happening. Things are moving. Where are we? Let's see. So, let's whiz in here. What's been going on? Everyone in the chat, what's the sound balance like?
Hello.
Oh, hello. Ah, welcome. Engineer off of the Discords. In fact, tell you what.
Yes.
Hello. Oh, people are here. What's the delay? Wait, are you hearing me through Discord and/or the YouTube?
No,
as well?
I'm hearing you through Discord.
Good.
I have the stream muted, otherwise that would be really confusing.
Yes. Yeah, agreed. Which is sad because in a way it means you're missing.
Do a little wave to the camera. That way I can
it.
judge the delay.
There you are. I'm waving now, so you can get an idea of the delay. The latency, I think, is about like it's pretty bad. It's like 25 seconds or something, maybe like that bad.
It's like 10 seconds or so.
Oh, okay, that's not.
Yeah, you're just waving. It's
not
not awful, but it's.
Yeah, it's pretty shoddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have tried to do this. I'll tell you what. Wait a minute. Let me share my screen and see what it does.
He said it like tanked the performance of the game, but we'll see.
Yeah,
Because if I can watch here, then that way I'm not like asking what you're doing 10 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing is you'll miss. So in stream, hello everyone. By the way, who's joining the stream? Oh, what's the? Oh, guest is loud. I'm less.
Oh, am I loud?
Oh, good. That's fine. I can. No, I'll adjust. I've just changed all my sound settings, so to make sure I get the balance right. How's everyone on the chat? How's that? Here we are. Hello,
Am I
Jimmy.
still very loud? Am I still loud?
So
I guess
we'll find out momentarily. Can people hear the music as well? There we are. Yeah. People in the chat, let us know what the sound balance is. We'll fiddle with it through the stream, right? If it's good enough for Besquicklehausen to muck around with sound balance, then I'm deeply unprofessional, so I can get away with this sort of thing. Right, share screens. I'm going to share screen now. Which screen do I want to share? I want to share this one actually. Without sound, no sound.
I'm fine without sound.
Go live. There we are. Let's see what that does. So at the moment you're just going to see my Discord, but we'll get to the.
Yes. Hello.
Hello. Yeah. Hello.
It's me.
yeah. So right. First of all, you're gonna, if you can, switch to your YouTube tab. I'm gonna do some describing of what the hell's been going on, because I always start these streams with a bit of an explanation of what we've been doing in the stream. So this is Transport Fever 2, which, as you know, is at best a mediocre game.
Yes.
But I've been having fun with this one because basically
seems like you've got quite the network there.
Oh yeah. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. We've had so actually let's go through the history. So because I've done a map for every year that we've been doing. So like how it's built up. So we had our first passenger line appeared in 1855 on an island down here, and then
oh, that's great.
And then, like, the Great Western Railway appeared, and then the Great Central started appearing, and more railway, and some other railways, and this metropolitan system appeared all of a snap, and so on and so forth. And you see, it started to grow up. And by building up, and particularly having different... I pretend they're different... Yeah, basically, let's face it, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm pretending like a small boy, but it kind of makes the game fun, which is where you essentially have competing companies, because you end up with duplication, which is a thing that happens in real railways, right? Lots of duplication and waste and a complete lack of strategic
Someone
vision.
asks who's the guest. The guest
Oh yes, introduce yourself.
Jay,
Yes.
Jay's here also. Jay just joined.
Aha. Radio silence.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't realize that was an introduction. I thought you were going to keep talking.
Oh, no, go for it. I tell you what, both of you introduce yourselves and say what you do and say, because a lot of people on here, we've got North America has joined us, everyone. North America has invaded and joined the stream. So, anyway, yeah, introduce yourselves.
Damn time.
Yeah. Besquicklehausen, why don't you start? Tell the good people what you get up to and what they can find on your YouTube channel.
Sure. I am a fellow transportation YouTuber, I suppose, though I focus more specifically on city skylines and cities and particularly like trains and things, which
That's
of
the good
course,
stuff.
yeah, you need to. But I do City Skylines videos, as well as a handful of other streams and things. I make assets and things for City Skylines. And I'm a big fan of Garrus and Rail Natter by way of Where There's Your Problem. So
it's nice. It's like an increasing sort of matrix of sort of transport kind of leftist sort of chat. It's all good fun. We like transport and we think it's important, and we like telling people about it. And it's engineer, go for it.
I'm Jeremy. I am just sort of here. If you care to do so and try to finagle the YouTube filters, I do have a channel under the same name, ENJINEER, where I post train videos. But that's about what I do. I'm sort of a hobbyist who dabbles in, I would say, transit Twitter would be my best quote-unquote expertise here.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to check out my Twitter, it's at Jeremy Zorek, just my name. And I'm also just on this Discord, and we discuss transit, and we've had quite the rousing TTD games lately. That'll be fun, I think. We get another... Yes, the superior game to
substantially.
Fever.
If you like if you like retro graphics and games that actually vaguely represent reality, unlike this one, then OpenTTD is the winner. In fact, a lot of people spend a lot of time on OpenTTD in the RailNatter Discord server, and I'm just too feared to get involved because I already waste so many hours in this game. I fear that I'd get sucked into anyway, but it's going to happen eventually. You guys are all like...
You should join the game tonight, because this seems like it's going to be a good one.
I highly recommend you try it, Gareth, but I feel like as a P-Way guy, the track laying is going to leave you wanting.
Yeah, that's the only thing. This game, right, in fact, tell you what, we'll get into describing why this game works for me, as in Transport Fever 2, because everything else falls to bits, but the P-Way element's quite good, which basically it scratches my itch. In any case, right, as is traditional on these streams, I generally start by explaining what on earth the hell has been happening. So we've completed a new main line connecting Shanklin and Bradshaw. Is kind of connected up, kind of crosses a land bridge here and whizzes up here. And at the moment we've been sharing the Great Western Station, but actually they've just built and opened and connected into their new station in this stream, which we'll show in a minute. What else has been going on? Bits of bypass here and there. Basically, the network's starting to look like how it probably will for a long time now. Railway mania is over, if you like, or certainly settling down. And so now it's a case of, like, the service patterns need to make more sense, because at the moment, all the services are basically like the same sort of services that started when the network didn't really exist. So that's probably going to need some work. What else? More bypasses and some four-tracking down here. I need to do some four-tracking into Flitwick. Anyway, this is the map. So this is where I always try and put this up for a bit of orienteering, because the map's huge, and people often say to me that they're lost when they're watching the stream, which is kind of fair enough, because it is quite big and fiddly. Is the music coming through, everyone? There are. Music is barely coming through, but with multiple people talking, that's marvellous. In any case, I am going to make the video of the actual game happen. So watch this get really shonky. Wait a minute, I have to Alt-Tab to OBS. I have to press this button. I then have to Alt-Tab to make sure that the chat's up. Then I Alt-Tab to the game. And I think we're here. Can everyone see? Discord people, can you see? That's an important question.
Yes, we can see it, and it won't. It'll be like maybe half a second behind. But
yeah, there we go. So there's only a small bit of delay. Let's make it move. So here we are. Oh yeah. Firstly, we've remodeled this. Besquicklehausen, you were wanting this to happen, and I fear that it's kind of happened off stream by. Oh, I'm PowerPoint sliding rather than streaming at this point. Oh, it's slow. It's very slow. I'm so sorry, everyone. We're getting there. What? Oh, it moved. Crikey. Are you getting this through? And oh, it's moving. Good grief.
We're getting it.
The camera, what's weird is the camera movement.
The camera's all right.
Nice and smooth. I don't know why the train seems to be lagging a lot.
It's just it's leaf mulch. It's just low adhesion. It's all fine. So yeah, we've got some trains. So we basically remodeled Bury Central because we built this bypass. This bypass has been constructed. So you can see there's quite a lot of. Whoa, here we are. There's quite. Oh, good grief. Well, it'll kind of. I think it calms down a bit. Maybe I just give up on the Discord. We'll give it another 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's moving a bit there. There we are. That's moving smoothly. In any case, we built this bypass off stream. So there's a bypass. Haverhill was getting pretty crowded. This station here was quite busy. You can see there's a few lines that go through here. So the kind of the lilac is freight, and the red there is is like a shared running service that terminates in this platform here. But it was pretty busy, actually. A lot of services running through here, quite a few of them not stopping, but getting snarled up. So the Great Central's invested in a bypass, which, once this stops being PowerPoint slides and starts being a stream... Right. Can everyone hear a train? Okay, the people on the Discord can't because they've got it muted, but there is a train and I could hear it.
That's fine. Now it seems to be running smoother also. Now it seems to be like it's
Yeah, it seems a bit better. I think maybe because there's a lot of simulation stuff for it to kind of work out once the game starts. I've got a lot of roads in this, and I think that even slows it down as well. In any case, so there's this old bit of railway line that's now been deprecated. This bit here, that's now been. So I like to leave my deprecated bits of railway line because I like that. I'm a sadist. So that's just staying there for now. It might get used by a road in the future.
Do. I mean, that's what they do. That's what you do.
Yeah, I mean, why lift that? Just it might be that they want to reinstate it later. Yeah, exactly. Just leave it. Just dump it there. No one cares. And in fact, like in about half an hour, I've got some mapping of York, of old York, where I live, from the 1850s, 1860s, to kind of show what railways actually look like then, certainly in the UK. So I'll do that in a bit. But for now, we're going to look at some game because it's a bit boring for the Discord people otherwise.
I recently found out about an old spur in New Brunswick. So for context, for the British people that are mostly watching this, I will be soon starting my on-campus living at college in New Brunswick in New Jersey, about 5 minutes off of our main city-to-city line, the Northeast Corridor. You may have heard of it. And I found out that recently I was looking at some old aerial photos, and there was an old spur to the Johnson & Johnson factory right where the current station is, like right. Yeah, so actually and then I poked around on Google Maps a bit, and I'm like, oh, it's hard to see because there's a lot of stuff that's now been built in the way, but you could just about see where they came off the corridor there. One of the many legacies of old freight stuff that has now been torn up.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that. So one of the things that I'm hoping will make this stream fun and/or incredibly busy is that there's going to be a lot of, particularly as we get through to the kind of the middle of the next century, there's going to be a lot of stuff that is going to be rationalized, abandoned, perhaps even just entirely ripped up. The road building might nick some of the old alignments. I'm expecting it to get kind of a bit messy in that way, kind of just like the real world is. So that's kind of going to be fun. But at the moment, railways are definitely dominant. So here we've got this. I mean, it's another. Besquicklehausen is going to be laughing. It's another horrible flat junction. Actually, it's quite a straightforward double junction. This one, but that
looks like Myrtle Broadway.
Yeah, we got one on the subway that's just like that, except the diverging route has a nasty reverse curve just after.
Oh, crikey!
It's a really bad. They just actually rebuilt it because the viaduct had reached the end of its useful lifespan. But it is boy howdy, that was something to ride on the gate cars with another M train coming off of that.
It's slow, it's loud, it's right over the heads of gentrifying neighborhood.
Oh dear, yeah.
It has to wrap its way under an old part of an elevated line that now no longer
under
exists.
some abandoned stuff that they can't tear down because it's structurally integral to the rest of the network.
Yeah,
but there's no track, so it's just trackways up on a viaduct.
But the whole thing was built
down. The whole thing's going to fall over.
Yeah.
So it kind of sounds like you're describing much of the railways in Manchester, to be honest. So in ye olde Manchester, there are a lot of horrible bottlenecks that impact on pretty much the entirety of the north of the UK, or certainly the north of England. And I've just paused it, by the way, just in case you're wondering what the hell's going on. And so one of the issues is that you've got a kind of a viaduct through the city, with all sorts of horrible alignment geometry because it was built in the city for lower speeds, along with a huge number of horrible conflicting moves. And government funded the easy bit of an upgrade project. They funded the fancy-looking snazzy bridge, which kind of through the city, but they didn't fund the grade separation that actually made the bridge useful. So actually what the bridge does is it's provided a new north-south link which reflects delays both north and south of the city. So yeah, not great to be honest. So that's the Ordsal Cord, which is a very fancy-looking bridge, but it's actually made the kind of conditions worse, which shows that engineering for the sake of engineering is no good if you haven't got an ops plan to go with it.
You love to see it.
Oh, big time. So Besquickle, this is your reverse curve you're talking about through Richmond. Do you remember when this was merely a twinkle in your eye? And here it is.
Beautiful. I love that. I'm like, all right, I got a plan. You're like, me too, and traced out my plan perfectly. We were on the same wavelength.
It's beautiful. It's when engineering, it's engineering magic. So you can see we've already got some abandoned alignments here that kind of to improve this a bit. So that the old,
yes.
Yeah. So that's going to get gobbled up by housing development, I'd imagine. Possibly.
The lineup on the embankment there is smooth as hell. That's gonna be fun to see. I don't know. Yeah. The only British train I can think of off the top of my head, the 125s, cruising around on.
So this is it. Because I'm not sure how this.
Class 91.
Yeah, this is it. The Class 91. Actually, someone's made an Intercity 250, which was a Class 93, which is there is a real Class 93 now, but it was like an imaginary one. It's beautiful. It's the most. In fact, I posted it on the Discord. It's like the most beautiful livery that never existed, which is that Intercity 250. It's just stunning. So this junction here is another flat junction, which is the connection of the Southern Main Line, and they've got shared running. This is going to get busy. The shared running plus this big sort of grade junction for the freight. So there's an express brick service, very realistic, an express brick service that runs into this city, which is like our capital city, or kind of the main city of the island. So they've got several stations. You've got this one here that goes out in the other direction. This station here, which is the Great Northern Station, which connects up to the kind of the north of the map with that main line that you've just seen. And then there's this Metropolitan Station, which is kind of quite old and just like hilarious. But actually, the throat is dismal. But actually, it runs quite smoothly because everything just basically conveyor belts in and out. There are enough platforms that there's one platform per service. So generally, it runs pretty smoothly, actually.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's all right. So
TD Brain is looking at that. I'm like, you need to connect every platform to get that thing in and out as fast as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So this city's pretty big. This is the biggest city in the map now, I think, or second biggest. The biggest is possibly. So this map's huge. So the reason I've not got mods on this at the moment is because I don't know how stable it's going to get in late game. Because it's a megalomaniac map, so I have been wary of mods. So what I'm going to do is, once I'm sure I've got a stable save game, I'll probably come back to it and then add in rolling stock to it, which I think you can do. So I'll pick
perfect.
a year and then go to town on finding some of the really good sort of British or European style trains and just kind of binge it with that. And definitely I want to have some Class 91s running up and down the electrified lines. That'll be nice. Here's Kingston Central. This is horrible. Look at this flat. Look at this.
Oh my god.
This I've seen you build. That
rules.
You know what that reminds me of is the Bronx the CNJ terminal with just insane like switch geometry and curves.
You're gonna need a nearby place to build all those to lay out all those custom switches.
Yes, good grief. Yeah, so actually when they started assembling things in kind of large panel layouts after the widespread use of manganese crossings, which were trialed in Philly, in fact, in the US.
You showed us that the other.
Yeah. I only discovered
and apparently this. It said like I didn't totally read that, but I think it said the IRT was like the first major.
Yes, yeah. The kind of that system was the first to basically roll them out big time, and they gave them like triple or in some cases like 6 times the lifespan. These manganese crossings, so basically including a bit more manganese in the alloy of the steel to make it a bit more wear resistant.
I'm not surprised, considering that I've heard that there is some original trackage from the IND, which is so for people that don't know, I'm talking about the first subway in New York was the Interborough Rapid Transit. The city-owned line was the IND, or Independent Subway, and apparently at one of the stations, I believe it's the 6th Avenue Express tracks, right, Jay?
This is true. There's
have rails
it's a
that were
handful of
laid
spots.
in the 30s because it's completely straight track.
Yeah.
With not insane like wear and tear that just good alloys last 80 years.
They hit it with the geometry car and everything, once a week or so, maybe once a month. So it's not like it's neglected, but it's
it's in perfectly good condition, evidently.
Yeah, when you're going straight, very, very few forces, relatively light trains, well maintained trains together, too, right? They don't roll around with flat spots for too long. They don't run around with stuck brakes or anything. It'll last.
Yeah, it'll last. It'll do the miles. So yeah, they started assembling. So the arguably the only bit of permanent way, certainly in the UK, that was famous for the sake of itself was a flat junction just north of, well, actually just east of Newcastle Central Station. What is now Newcastle Central?
I think I know the photo you're talking about.
Newcastle East Junction. So it's stunning.
A third of a bazillion switches.
Yeah, it's nuts. Absolutely nuts.
8 tracks fanning out in each direction, crossing each other.
Yeah. Well, I should try. If I was clever, I'd get it up on. Wait a minute. I can do this. I can do this.
Yeah.
I'm doing it, everyone.
Probably do that.
You're going to enjoy a picture of an HST on the Selby diversion while I get this up. Castle East.
Oh, speaking of diversion, Jay, apparently there was a Norfolk Southern derailment in outside of Chicago, and they may run Amtrak over the South Shore line.
I saw you post that. I see.
Yeah.
God, it's hell.
Good.
Oh, there's a picture of them maintaining it.
Oh, and there's third rail there. And there's third rail there, too.
Yes, the Newcastle Electrics ran. So yeah, you can see this is it finished. This is them building it. Yeah, there it is. Some very nice looking Northern Electrics, sort of Northeast Electrics there. The Tyne Electrics.
Those are cool looking cars there.
Yeah, they're pretty smart. It's a shame that system. I mean, basically, this got superseded by the Tyne and Wear Metro, which is a good little system actually. But
oh, gotcha.
Yeah, but this thing, I mean, this is nuts. So before, so the stuff. So I try and make these educational, and this is definitely ticking that box. So this is all laid. This was relayed in what year would it have been? I think it was the early 1900s when it was laid in manganese. Quite like the 1910s possibly. And before that, it was all just steel laid in small parts that just fell to bits. Like it just got hammered because every time you've got a break, and also you can see here it's got kind of nice long timber supports, so the whole thing is a proper manganese.
I was noticing that it also looks like it's got some nice drainage happening there with the channels.
Yeah,
between
they've got So because of the longitudinal timbers here, you do have a bit of space for stuff to drain away. I mean, this is all kind of up on kind of arched bridges around here as well, so it's kind of not at grade. There's a lot going on.
This is only coming to us.
Oh yeah, that's right. You're not seeing it.
Oh, right.
Oh,
YouTube's
it's only coming to us.
So
I get it.
YouTube
is not seeing this. Oh, that's fine.
Else.
Everyone, I'm sorry. I'm going to go to the other small face. I'm going to put this over here, and then I'm going to press this. Thanks, Pascal Class for keeping me right. Right, here we go. I'm going to go here, and then press F11. There we go. Everyone can now... Oh, just pressed F12 as well. You don't need to see the... There we go. There we go, everyone. You can see that now. Yes. Anyway, there we go. Marvelous.
Okay, yes.
So people on the YouTube can now see it. There we go. There you go. I'm forgetting that I use the game input, not just the screen input on this, because it makes it run better. I don't know how any of this works. It's loosely sellotaped together. In any case, there we go. There are the pictures, everyone. I'm going to flick back and forward. They're marvelous.
I love the British speed markers that are just the number sitting on the
cutout number.
By itself. Yeah. I love that.
It is very, very cool, and there are quite a lot of them still around as well.
That's not as opposed to the round, the black on red.
Oh, we've lost you. You've disappeared into the ether. It sounds like you've been subsumed. Hopefully, it's not my end.
No, it's my mic. Can you hear me now?
Oh yeah,
yes.
That's much better. Yeah, good.
My mic just decided not to work for a second. I was saying I love those numbers as opposed to the red.
The standard sort of
white,
speed sign.
The standard signs, yeah.
Yeah, those cutouts still exist all over the place. There's a good one that I'll put in. I'll drop it into the Discord actually of a 125 mile an hour cutout sign.
Awesome.
Yeah, which is so cool. Anyway, the reason I showed that is because basically at this point, 1872, this would all still be assembled individually with individual parts with kind of with timbers exactly like this, with the ties all interlaced horribly. This is actually it's not too bad really. But if you can imagine sort of like the Cannon Streets, the Charing Crosses, the Newcastle East junctions, certainly in the UK, those are the really crazy junctions. Just a mess, just horrifying. And I suppose good fun, but mostly horrifying if you're the kind of if you're in charge of that length as the kind of the plate layer.
I assume Gareth, you know of Tower 18 in Chicago.
Is that the?
Hold on, I'll plop a picture of it in the Discord. It's the one on the L. That's the corner of
nearly a Grand Junction on the L.
Ah, okay. So it's quite an impressive layout.
I'll put it in virtual trains just so you can see it,
So
but
I
it's
can see it,
also
yeah.
ridiculously tight turning radii that they have in Chicago. They have 48-foot long cars.
The actual junction's
Have
not
to be among the shortest.
particularly incredible, or like, it's not particularly unique. It's just how tight it is.
Tight, and also
that one. Oh, I use that picture quite a lot to explain to explain flat crossings, to explain diamonds, and to explain double junctions, because that is a very famous one. So did you say it's Tower 18?
Tower 18. It's I think it's the northwest corner of the loop in Chicago.
Nice.
Yep.
Anyway, right, I've dithered around long enough. We must continue to do some construction, because what time is it actually in real life? 21:27 already. Okay, right, so the reason I've come to this station, this is Kingston Station. This is quite a big city. It's kind of, as you can see, it's on the coast. It's got things happening.
But you have trams.
Oh yeah, there are trams. There's some sort of we've got streetcar, horse-drawn still. Don't really know what's going on there. That kind of looks like it's just gone completely AWOL, but we'll not worry too much about that. I'm sure the people will come along and push it into the right place. In any case, and also we've got shipping as well. There is some shipping. There are a few kind of various bits of urban shipping and all sorts. But operating out of this station here is the Great Central Railway. They have just recently bought the company that used to own this, the railway company that used to own this station. They've gobbled it up. But they have a challenge, which is that the Southern Railway's just opened. The Southern Railway has... Oh, slow. There we are. Southern Railway's just opened... Actually, what will make this even easier is if I do this, and this, and this, and this, and that, and then do this. There we go. That should make everyone's life a bit easier. You can see that a bit more clearly. So you can see there's Great Northern Station here. And there's a bit of a delay for the Discord people. And the line... So this Southern Railway's just opened up, which now connects... That's Bradshaw up with Shanklin up here, which is the other big city, Shanklin. And the Great Central currently have got quite a weavy connection into quite an indirect connection, so they're feeling like they're losing some sort of revenue. So they need to build a new connecting line, and to do that, they're going to build probably one of the first major viaduct structures over water on the map. So they're going to actually bridge this bit of water here with a viaduct, I think. So I need to work out what that's going to look like and where the junction is going to be that allows that to happen. Yeah, and this happened all the little corners being shaved off, money being investment being justified on the basis of we are being outcompeted with by one of our, particularly in the UK, it was generally the north-south competition on the west coast and on the east coast. So that the Great Northern on the east coast and the LNWR and the various other kind of companies competing on the West, and then the Midland Railway in the middle as well, competing. All three of these companies kind of racing to capture as much of the market as they could, the passenger market particularly. And so they did do lots of cutting corners and sort of building diversions and new roads and all sorts. So we're going to try and work out how to do that here. First of all, I think I'm going to build the bridge first. Right, where are we?
That competition seems pretty analogous to, what you had in the U.S.
Mm.
Similar, you had, of course, the famous rivalry between the Pennsylvania and the New York Central, who could go to Chicago faster from New York.
Yeah, Chicago was like railway capital, right?
It still is. It's the place where all 7 Class 1s all come together.
Okay, for anyone who's not sure, and we'll explain this on Do Not Eat, Justin Rosniak's episode of Rail Natter, actually, that's happening in the new year, the first episode of 2021. We'll explain about Class 1s, because I had no idea. I didn't really have a proper understanding of that structure. But essentially, for anyone in the feed who's not sure, that's like the big players, the really big player railway companies that kind of dominate the market.
So it's Canadian National, Canadian Pacific, CSX, Norfolk Southern, Kansas City Southern, Union Pacific, and BNSF, Burlington Northern Santa Fe.
That's all 7.
And Amtrak. Can't forget Amtrak. Amtrak is a Class 1.
Despite not having any of their own... Actually, do they actually own any lines at all?
Yeah, they do.
They do.
Oh,
they
okay.
own the entire northeast... Well, They own the northeast corridor from Washington to New Rochelle, and then from New Haven to Boston, because then the MTA owns it from New Rochelle to the state line, and Connecticut owns it from the state line to New Haven. But they also do own trackage. Like they own the line up from New York to Albany. They own that north of Poughkeepsie. They own some trackage out in the Midwest where they have upgraded it to like 110 and stuff. Like the Michigan services, those lines are all, I believe, owned by Amtrak because they now get so little freight that Amtrak was just, we'll take it. And there's also some state-owned stuff elsewhere, which is essentially the same as Amtrak owning it because you still don't have the freight owning it. But yeah, they do own not a lot of trackage, but they definitely, I would say the bulk of the big heavy passenger usage is on Amtrak's own tracks.
Okay, yeah. We talked. So for anyone who's interested to learn more about this, because for me, I'll freely admit I just don't know enough about North American, and particularly U.S. railroads.
we are just sort of folks from the Discord.
Oh yeah. So sorry, we're referring to. So there's two Discord servers being referred to here. So the Discord server, the RailNata Discord server is a different one to the one I'm referring to in stream. Everyone, sorry if I'm confusing people in the YouTube chat.
We're in a small Discord, like 15 people.
Yeah. So that's what we're referring to in terms of pictures. But I'll share those pictures through onto the RailNata Discord. Don't worry, everyone in the chat, you'll be there. Ella, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm building a bridge is what I'm doing. And it looks like we're going to have to do a lot of work to get this to join up to the... It's going to come up here and connect up with the Great Central up here. There's going to be a junction. Obviously, I'm going to manage to somehow have snarled this into a bit where it's curved, so we're going to have some... Not ideal. Ideally, all junctions would be on a straight track. Actually, maybe we can get away with this. The industries are a pain in the ass because they're kind of... Half of them I don't use. I mean, I suppose it makes it fun because you've got to deal with them as a thing to dodge, right? So it makes it more tricky. I think we're going to come up like this, but it means we're going to have a lot of roads to deal with as well. Anyway, that's fine. We'll get there. So we've got a hill as well. So this is the shortest crossing. So that's why we built the bridge first. Is so I know that because that's where the bridge is going to have to go. If you like, what they've done is they've done their surveys. They know that's where the shortest crossing is, and therefore it's the cheapest bit of civil engineering they can do. And everything else on dry land is that bit easier. We just need to be able to join up to work out where we're going to go to actually join up to this railway over here. This is the line we're going to be joining into. Actually, it's not too bad. This will be fairly straightforward, I think.
You could pretty much do a straight line.
Yeah, I think you're right. We'll contour around this lump. I think possibly we'll come around this side. We'll have a junction here. We'll need to move the road out the way for the junction, but that's not a problem. Yeah, you're right, actually. This will be okay. This will be okay. So, let's have a think.
You've seen plenty of worse.
Yeah, like there's been some worse stuff going on, definitely. I'm going to just plow ahead with this, actually, I think. I'm going to do it on this side first. We'll start. In fact, I'll do it on the inside of the curve always, so I can...
Said, ideally, all junctions would be on straight track, says the guy whose favorite junction is diverging curves.
Well, indeed, yeah, but that's because there's ideal... I've got two hats on, basically. I've got my actual designer hat, and then I've got my sort of... And the two very different looking hats. One of them is my white hard hat that I wear when I'm being sensible, and the other one is like some sort of goofy sort of clown hat that makes me, I look at pictures of ridiculous permanent way alignments that are just a horrible reverse curve sort of backing onto a junction mess and get happy about it.
I should find the photo of the Myrtle Broadway to show you, because you will appreciate that.
I can imagine I'll appreciate. Right, so I'm going to smash this up.
It's not that bad.
It's... I mean...
There we are.
Yes and no.
Let's see, how's this?
It's not that bad. There's some wild stuff out there on the subway network.
That is... Like the D-train portal at 36th Street, that one's an interesting one. That's a sharp curve out into a cut for a half a second and then back in. I'm trying to find a good photo of it here.
So see what I've done here is I've already severed a major connection, so it's going well so far.
Nice.
Nice. But it's fine. We're going to build a road here and join it up. There we go. So
you might be able to route that. Sorry.
No, go on, Squickle.
You might be able to route that road just on the other side of the industry under the coast, like under the bridge on the coast.
I think that's a very good point. And what I might do is this actually is just shoot the.
A little more viaduct.
Exactly. Yep. That's when my computer catches up. There we go. The trouble is now I'm going to get angsty because this is going to have a really nasty vertical curve on this. Oh, no, it's not too bad, actually. Oh, I can live with that. It's not too bad. It's fine. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Road. God, I'm not a pro gamer, and it shows. It really does show. There we go. Let's do... let's have a little bit shorter. There we go.
Man, I totally forgot how crusty the Myrtle Avenue Viaduct was before they actually rebuilt it.
Oh, yeah.
Boy, that thing was quite in condition.
Oh, you gotta love things. Yeah, stuff that's in just absolutely shoddy condition, and yet somehow. In fact, I was listening to the news read, and people were moaning about one of the. I'm talking about Manchester again. People were moaning about the condition of the kind of the major railway viaduct that shoots across the top of Manchester, towards kind of southwards on the West Coast Main Line, complaining that there's like calcite dropping on their roofs and sort of damp. And
we've had that happening here with the 7 train with the. My theory to all the debris coming off that is because when they activated CBTC, all of a sudden everything was going faster. So my theory is more vibrations means more stuff shaking itself loose from L and
really.
falling. No, it's just
not really
falling apart always.
They had left. It was contractors and people had left debris unsecured.
So it was falling down.
But yeah, so this was not really calcite. This was like big bolts.
Actual brick.
Well, other than the terracotta coming off the Queens Boulevard part, that was just stuff falling off.
Yeah. No, we had some like substantial pieces of metal, spike plates. I think a piece of spare rail fell off a viaduct.
Oh
somewhere.
goodness, no, that's not good. No, don't do that.
Just like went straight through somebody's like a parked car's windshield and just like came out the bottom of the car.
Yeah, it was kind of wild.
So as like a representation of post-Thatcher decay, my favourite structure in the world is the Forth Rail Bridge, right? It's just an incredible structure.
What is it, the Forth?
Yeah, exactly. So it's near Edinburgh. It's just absolutely stunning. It's one of the structures that inspired me to become an engineer and to look at kind of the majesty of railways, and as a kind of an indication of sort of decline in the early 90s. There are some possibly apocryphal stories of I mean, this structure is huge. It has like bothies on it. It has lifts in it. It's just an incredibly huge, massive structure. And there are possibly apocryphal stories of pieces of rust the size of, like the size of a car falling down and crushing like an Austin Allegro in North Queensferry. This thing like sits right across the village. And kind of one of the main spans sits kind of over that part of the village. And rust pieces, like these huge lumps of rust falling from the sky and landing and crushing an Austin Allegro. That kind of for me is like, yeah, bridges. Please look after your bridges, everyone.
This is entertaining. In trying to find a picture of the Myrtle Avenue stuff, I've come across a Pinterest thing that is a pin of my own photo submitted to r/infrastructure porn a year ago of the switches at Myrtle Broadway. So I guess we'll just copy paste.
Yeah. Nice.
You could sort of put 2 and 2 together if you pop over to Virtual Trains and take a look at that one. It's quite a lot going on.
Oh yeah. Wait a minute. Let me. Can I do this? Wait a minute. Can I prop the stream up without it collapsing? Wait a minute. Here we are. I'm gonna do this, and then. Oh my goodness. Yes.
That's cutting out a lot. There's a third track to the right behind D15.
Yes. There's a third track there. And then the photo before it shows you what's coming off to the left.
Let me just F11 that, and then go to OBS. Wait a minute. This is it's happening. Everyone in the stream. There's the image. There it is. Everyone in the stream can see it. Hooray! Yeah, there's quite a lot going on there. And you've got there's quite a lot of sweep angle on these. So those aren't checks. Those look like guardrails. They're like they're
those are guardrails.
Yeah.
Subway loves those. On the L's you generally see them, which the idea is if a train were to derail, you don't want it plunging off into the street below.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is quite a good image for showing the difference between a check rail and a guardrail. This is quite the educational stream we've got on our hands here. So this picture's great. So not only have you got, good God, I mean you can't see what I'm pointing at here, but I'm pointing at some of the slip work, which is quite something. So over here where the flat crossing is, and indeed around the S&C, you can see some of the check rails. The checks are the ones that are really close to the shiny running edge. But then these ones with the yellow ends, these are guardrails, and they're designed for, as you said, they're basically derailment protection. They're to keep a train in line to stop it falling off a bridge, basically.
Which, if you think of an elevated line like this, it's one giant bridge.
Yeah. So I presume there are a lot of those around then.
Yes. So generally, like on the L's, you have just double guardrails running the whole way. Because like obviously, you will sometimes see them like on curves and stuff where you'll have one on the side that a train would be risking falling. But generally, you have these, and they're also generally, I believe, cut from the old rail that is taken off there.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
So you'll see rails from like the 50s and stuff lying in the middle there, forming the guardrails.
Yeah, and it depends what's exactly as you say. It depends what's lying around. It might. So generally, yeah, you'll find bullhead in the UK. Often you'll find rails like that are using bullhead because it's lying around. But it kind of depends on what. So for me, when I'm doing specifying guardrails nowadays, I'll specify nice new rail. I need to have a mince pie actually. They've been sat next to me. I've just got distracted by the fact that I have a huge number of mince pies. Shall I put my Christmas hat on as well, since it's Christmas? It's Christmas
Yes,
Eve.
Christmas hat.
There we are. The Christmas hat is out. There we go. So I'll generally specify new ones because it depends on the base plate that you're actually connecting the whole thing up with. So that can be a bit. So you need to use newer rail quite often for that. I need to get rid of this road. Damn. Okay, that's gone as well.
Are you firmly anti-grade crossing even in 1872?
We have got our first separated junction, which was built on the
Grade crossing is in road rail.
Oh, I see. Oh no, so mixed feelings actually. In the UK, actually, there was a lot of bridge building to avoid level crossings. So even in this, even in the 1870s, a lot of bridges were built. Really? A lot of masonry bridges were built.
That did not happen in the US.
Interesting.
Whatsoever.
So it's pretty much entirely avoided. Yeah.
They only really started to get a sense of that in major traffic areas. Like, once you get to like the 1910s, you see a lot of major grade separation in terms of high traffic lines. Yeah. Especially in like the East Coast versus like in the Midwest. Like you see like major grade elimination projects in New York and stuff with like the Long Island Railroad's Main Line Atlantic branch. You see them sort of, they elevate some parts, they tunnel some parts, but generally they try to sort of. And today, there are very few actual proper railroad crossings left in New York City proper because of it.
Okay, yeah. I mean, they're an absolute liability. Level crossings are bad. They are just not a good idea. So it's understandable to get rid of as many as you
especially on high traffic, like there's a part of the main line in Queens that actually is 6 tracks.
Oh dear me, yeah. Don't.
That all got grade separated by 1914 or whatever when it was electrified. So.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Do that.
Yeah. Although, of course, when you're out in the middle of the desert or whatever, in Arizona, on roads that see 10 cars a day, it's a different story.
Yeah, it's kind of you start struggling to justify the justify the expense.
The clearances that we have, when you compare the loading gauge, you need 20 feet.
Yes.
Of clearance versus what, 10?
Yeah, 10. If you're lucky. Yeah. What? I mean, I'm happy if I'm getting 4.5 meters. So yeah, but in the olden days, yeah, you'd be looking at less than that.
4.5 meters. Yeah. So that's what.
Like Stevenson's
14.
Original. You're looking really tight. Like what is it? 2 point. Yeah, like 10-ish, 9-ish feet, 10 feet. Yeah, they're small. It's very small comparatively compared to the good stuff that you find in the US.
Yeah, our the double stacks and all that good stuff.
Yeah. We're going to bridge this like this. How am I going to do this? I'm going to do it here, actually. There we go. Oh, crikey. That looks very tall. Good grit. There's another thing that annoys me is that, yes, I like tight loading gauge because that's what I do. That's my thing. 1, 2, 3,
You would
4.
love the tunnels that have I'll try to find a picture of the tunnel that goes between Detroit and Windsor. From Canada to the U.S. Was originally built, obviously, not for loading gauge, the jumbo loading gauge. So you can see literally where they chiseled out the edges of the top
Oh, I think I know the picture you mean. Yeah, you can see the.
And you can see how it's been made just to fit a high cube boxcar or double stack container.
Yeah.
it fits through like a puzzle piece, like exactly, perfectly. It's wonderful.
So these sorts of it happens in the one of the things I spend most of my day job doing is gauge clearing, and actually one of the sorts of projects I really enjoy doing are freight gauge clearance projects. So clearing kind of intermodal container freight, working out how to get it to fit through our tiny little railway lines that we have in the UK.
I didn't realize even just containers on, like, I guess they're not spine cars, but the flat, whatever. I don't know what you guys call those cars that you put.
Yeah, flatbeds. So yeah, kind of flatbed kind of wagons. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even realize. I figured those just sort of fit. I didn't realize that you guys even had to mess with clearances just to get those to work.
Oh yeah, and actually we're quite finicky over which ones we can use given in certain conditions as well. So it's not even like the perfect situation where every combination fits with every other combination. So for example, our kind of the most commonly found freight gauge out on the network now is W9, what we call it. And the W9 is still like a very small number of combinations of different types of wagons in sort of low body, sort of drop wagons where the containers down between the bogies, which obviously reduces capacity because ideally you want them sat on top of the bogie so you can maximize how many you haul around. So,
well, India even has the US beat because they double stack stuff on flat cars. Yeah. Whereas when we double stack, we have to use, the well cars, which are like what you're saying, so they're slung between the wheels.
Yes, yeah, well cars, is that what you call them? Yeah, that's the stuff.
We call them wells.
Yeah, so we make quite a lot of use of those. But W12 is kind of the go anywhere we have, and that enables
Yeah, those are the most common thing you find on intermodal freights, unless it's like your high priority stuff with the piggybacks.
Oh yeah,
which is the trailers. You do now, more commonly, I've seen recently, you do find containers on those, they're called spine cars here.
Okay,
which are literally like wheels, and they're also articulated, so you'll have like 3 or 5 to a section.
Okay, yeah.
All about reducing dead weight.
Yes.
Well, and also rail.
Wheels are heavy.
Wheels are heavy, and also, you have more axle loading and all that, so, eliminating as much as possible. And a spine car is...
You will almost never hit axle loading limits when you're hauling intermodal.
That's true, because...
No, just when you're hauling intermodal anything, because the break point is so wide.
It's true in the UK as well. Yeah.
Yeah, a 50-foot boxcar in the US, which is one of the more common types of boxcars. They're moving to 60-foot now, which is a whole big issue because warehouses have 50-foot doors.
Yeah.
So 60-foot boxcars are not particularly useful for a lot of places. But anyway, a 50-foot boxcar can hold something like 5 times the amount of cargo as a 53-foot trailer.
Are we talking just a 50-foot, or are we talking a high cube boxcar also?
I think just a 50-foot. I need to...
Not even with that extra, 3 feet of clearance or whatever.
I need to confirm this, but it's just weight. It's weight limited. So many box trucks and things drive around not full to the rafters because it's weight limited. And you can move just vastly more weight with steel on steel rather than pneumatic rubber tire on asphalt.
So I started my professional writing career. So I'm a permanent engineer, but I also do a bit of writing and casual journalism here and there. And I actually started my career writing a piece for Rail Magazine in the UK. It's kind of the leading sort of industry publication, if you like, but sort of with a kind of outwards facing. It's kind of commonly picked up by politicians and stuff. Anyway, Rail Magazine. There's my plug for Rail Magazine. There's a load I've got downstairs. I'm going to hold it up. Rail Magazine. In any case, and it was about the fact that rail just has road beat in terms of all of the measures that you'd expect to, in terms of energy efficiency,
consumption, efficiency.
Yeah, all this stuff. And ultimately, the reason why roads get away, road freight works is because of the massive state subsidy of the road network that just gets forgotten about. Certainly, that's the case in the UK. I don't know whether that is mirrored.
The case in the US, though, it's also more focused on the end of the journey. So like you'll have carload stuff going to a yard, but then that gets unloaded. Especially when it's intermodal stuff, then you have the drayage on either end of the final point. So you'll have warehouses in New Jersey that have a bazillion docks for trucks, and those trucks might only go to New York or to like Croxton Intermodal Terminal, where then they'll get loaded onto a train to go to Chicago.
It's this and ultimately the future of kind of logistics needs to be, certainly in the urban sphere, needs to be much more with kind of centralized sort of inner city or kind of outer city transfer from rail onto electric vehicles. Yeah,
onto light electric vehicles.
Exactly.
So that's much more what the U.S. has compared to the U.K. Because I know that in general you guys have, well, not electric vehicles, but the New York is actually a bad example because we have really poor freight infrastructure outside of the city or in the city itself. So everything sort of has to come like over bridges and tunnels via truck, whereas a lot of other cities do still have the ability to sort of get stuff closer to the core.
Okay, yeah.
But so in New York, Union Pacific used to run this thing called the Salad Shooter. Great name. That was
the salad shooter.
I'll explain why. So basically, you'd have fresh produce grown in like the Southwest, right, Jay? Like
California.
Los Angeles, yeah, California. So you'd have tomatoes, lettuce, your salad ingredients, and it would literally be a unit. So this is not generally normal for stuff like this. So generally, things like reefer cars, refrigerated cars, boxcars, those things go into what's called manifest trains. So it's just general bulk freight, sort of all thrown together, into a 10,000-foot long train and hauled across the country. So Union Pacific did this thing called the Salad Shooter, which was literally they'd have like 3 engines, like 35 reefer cars, and it would just go. They would basically stop only to refuel. It was like the highest priority train, and it was like California to New York in like 6 days or something.
Oh wow, okay, yeah.
Less than that.
So you could load your train on like Monday in Los Angeles, and the produce would be on the store shelves in New York the following Monday.
It was incredibly fast. So New York used to get 2 manifest produce or consumables trains. A salad shooter from the west.
I thought the salad shooters ended up in Selkirk and then got split up and sent to like New Jersey and New York.
I believe some of the salad shooters made it all the way to Hunts Point originally.
I know in the recent years they definitely ended up getting separated at Selkirk and just loaded onto whatever that one daily train down the West Shore down to Hunts Point. That would be like part of the salad shooter and other things.
Yeah, so a lot of them originally there were a couple kind of food unit trains that ran daily or almost daily to New York City. There's the salad shooter, and then there was a juice train.
I've heard that. I think we talked about the juice train actually on Roz's episode.
The juice train is still semi-intact as CSX Q300-301, and it's really funny because what it now is combined juice and trash. So you have so you have empty because it runs from like Florida, so they bring it over from like Georgia where the trash comes and it gets put together in like Jacksonville. So it comes up from Florida with empty trash and then like 40 boxcars that are all almost all of them will also be Tropicana, which is really funny.
Yep.
Of orange juice, fresh orange juice. So it's like 2.5 days coming from Florida. So it's a quick supply line. And that all goes to and this has always been, the juice train's always gone to New Jersey, I believe, right?
Yep. And they backhaul.
Then they backhaul. Now what they do is then they backhaul the trash down to the southeast of the United States.
Yeah.
And that's a daily train. So you have the loaded juice and empty trash.
Orange juice up, garbage back down.
Yeah.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. You can't be moving empties. You can't be that guy loudly shouting at empties. That guy.
Empties east, empties west.
Empties east, empties west. The pigtails running this outfit. That video entertained me for quite a long time. I'll send. I don't know if anyone in the chat knows of this video. I'll need to go into YouTube.
There's a lot of US rail knowledge also. It's sort of needed to fully appreciate it.
It's funny even without that. It's funny, right? So while we're here, we're going to do something a bit different here, which is we're going to reprioritize this alignment. So at the moment, the through route, if you like, of the S&C is going to be heading off up to, I think it's Paignton, is it? Yeah, it's off up to Paignton, which is no good at all. Because this, clearly we want the fast alignment to be the new bypass, right? So,
yes.
In order to achieve that, we are going to, first of all, I'm going to make sure I've got my appropriate sort of nice smooth alignment here, which I think if I do this, it's going to be, just about.
Yeah,
I like to have...
I was asking about how they did crew changes, and yeah, so remember our locomotives have redonkulous loading gauges, so they're giant trains that also then, of course, can carry a ton of fuel. I actually don't know, Jay, you might know, like, how often they need a refuel, but I know it's not, like, Amtrak can, like, pretty much get from New York to, like, Chicago, I think, like, without refueling, or maybe one top up in the middle.
It's generally pretty fast. I mean, we definitely have to do crew changes. Usually
crew changes, I think, are more frequent than fuel.
Yes, crew changes are more frequent than fuel. Generally speaking...
I think you have, 10 hour? What's the timeout?
I think you time out at 10.
But obviously they try to crew... So basically there's this thing called outlawing, which is if you get, like, really delayed, it can actually be really bad because you can end up with having to just basically equivalent of pulling over on the highway.
Right, yeah. So essentially, you've filled your tachometer, so we've got little cards in the UK for the HGV drivers, basically. Although they're probably digitized now. And yeah, so they clock if they max those out, then that's it. They've got to pull over.
Yeah. So the same thing in the US, and the problem is it can be a huge eel because if you're in like the desert of Arizona, 50 miles from the nearest like hotel or whatever, then the railroad or whatever is gonna have to send like a taxi out in the middle of goddamn nowhere to pick up the crew and bring out another crew to keep the train moving. Or if they can't even do that and there's no crew nearby, then they literally have to let that train sit there like for 12 hours until they can get another crew out to it. So generally, you'll try to have like someone scheduled for like 7 hours, so in case something really bad happens and they can't recrew, you're not going to end up getting stuck out in the sticks.
Yep.
Yeah, so CSX 8888, Ella's asking about the Crazy Eights incident. So actually what that one was like a local, it was just sort of switching in a yard, and they were doing I think like a local freight run. The deal was they had hazardous chemicals on the what they were hauling was hazardous. They had some, like, 5 cars with some bad chemical that, if you derail and spill.
Phenol.
Yeah. So, 88 was... So, actually, the movie does nail decently well how it actually ran away, which was when you're doing yard switching, you have, like, the dead man stuff off, and you have, like, stuff with the air brake set differently, and so that you can keep coupling and uncoupling cars without... Because otherwise, Normally, if you lose air pressure on the brake line, your train comes to a stop. So when you're kicking around cars and stuff, you have stuff cut out so the brakes don't... Because if you uncouple the car and your train stopped every time, it'd be inefficient.
You just use the locomotive brakes, basically.
Yeah, because you're also going
especially when you're
10 miles an hour.
Yeah, when you're going that casually. So... I believe in real life they were actually trying to accelerate. So in the movie, which is assumed Unstoppable, which is not a bad movie, it's kind of fun.
I would say it's a fun movie to watch. It's a fun movie to watch.
But I assume that's why you know about this. Honestly,
actually, they said no. It's from the Tom Scott video, apparently.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so basically they were trying to accelerate this train to make a move, and basically, because these guys. It doesn't really matter how efficient they are. They just punched it up to full power. You just do full power, full brakes, just kind of get this thing moving.
That's what you do when you're switching, is because you want to, move around as fast as possible because you don't want
as quickly as possible. Yeah.
Throwing in a notch 8 just to get to 10 miles an hour will get you to 10 miles an hour pretty quick.
Yeah, which you can do. Exactly when you're running.
Yeah. And this guy had thrown it in a notch 8, and then jumped out of the cab to align a switch that was misaligned, which is surprisingly common. It's against the rules, but of course it's against the rules. But it's one of those things that's against the rules, but still done.
So in the movie,
Oh. We'll never know.
He
We
sets
lost
the
you briefly.
throttle.
Your mic decided to throw you away there briefly.
So, basically in the movie, he gets out to throw a switch, and he puts the throttle in, like, notch 1. But it, like, slips into 8, which isn't how real trains work. And now in real life, so the way it works is you have, dynamic brakes on a locomotive. 8888, I believe, is an SD40. Yes, so what you do is, when you put on the dynamic brakes, you actually you set the throttle to whatever you want, and then you put it into dynamics, which essentially just flips the traction motors. So in real life with the 8888, what the guy does is he thinks that he has thrown the locomotive into dynamic brake mode.
Yeah.
So the idea is it would have, kept slowing down.
Yeah,
And he put on, I believe he put on the independent brake also, which is the locomotive's air brakes.
So the dynamics use the full power of the engine to stop the train instead of
accelerate it.
It's almost like the equivalent of throwing your car into reverse and flooring it, but on trains it works.
Yes. So what ends up happening is he thinks he's put it into dynamic brakes, and then he actually hasn't. So what he's done, and the crucially the alerter and stuff, all that safety things that would have stopped the train after a few minutes weren't put in because they were doing yard switching. So he's got like a 25-car train, and he's just suddenly thrown it into notch 8, which I don't know if that's equivalent terminology in the UK, but
top, cranking it right up to full acceleration.
So he throws it into notch 8 and jumps off the train, and of course this thing starts to accelerate. Because it's an SD40 with 25 cars, so you're going to get up to line speed. You're going to be able to get this thing up to speed pretty quickly, which sets off this, 33-mile hunt down of this train that is now full powered, running it down the line. And actually, so the part in the movie where I don't know who's seen the movie, but there's a part in the movie where they try to shoot the fuel cutoff as it's running through a town.
Oh my god.
What's funny is that seems like over-dramatized movie magic, right? You'd think that. So they actually tried to do that, which was they got the local sheriff, they had their sniper or whatever sitting there to try to shoot the fuel cutoff switch on the underside of the locomotive. The problem is it needs to be held down for 3 seconds.
Oh my goodness, yeah, so that wasn't happening.
What they actually did, which is what they do in the movie with less chaos, was they ended up having a crew drop their they had another crew somewhere along the line. They tell them to cut their cars on a siding, and they basically end up pulling up behind them, coupling in, and just throwing their train into dynamic brakes to sort of pull them from the other end. Yeah. And I think the main fear there was that they were going to snap a drawbar.
Yeah, because obviously you're putting a huge amount of load then through the coupling systems.
That wouldn't have worked in the UK because you guys have the puny little
very puny, very very puny.
I don't know why Europe hasn't adopted knuckle couplers. There's so much better.
Interesting. We do have Johnny. We've got a mixture. So we've got all sorts, haven't we? So we've got, for the most part, the modern stock all uses sort of the Dellner and the BSI couplers all use what is it, Scharfenberg? Is that right?
The automatic, the electric, where it pushes down the thing.
Exactly.
Yes, we use those on MUs too.
Yeah. So that kind of makes sense on light passenger stock, right? But in terms of freight, we just don't have the trailing loads, I presume, to have ever really forced the need for
right, because we have, of course, very heavy.
Yeah, you've got 3-mile long trains with bulk load. Not even intermodal, but bulk. Coal. Yeah.
But also we have coal, which is the densest, heaviest thing to be carrying. So you really need that long. Yeah, all that stuff, and of course, if you're going over a hill and stuff like that, the forces on that are going to be immense with the slack, being dragged down behind it as you come over. So what they ended up doing, so they couple up, they slow down to about 15 miles an hour, 10 miles an hour, and they have guys running alongside the train. And so once they're able to get enough, they jump on and are able to shut it off after 33 miles or something of running. Like it's immensely miraculous that they didn't derail, because that thing must have gotten up to decent speeds.
I was going to say, well, there's a general rule of kind of unofficial rule of thumb which we have as PU engineers, which is you can probably run trains without them derailing up to 3 times the kind of recommended kind of designed curve speeds. So that I would never recommend attempting it, but if you look at historic derailments through curves, you'll find that generally the derailments happen at a speed around about kind of 3 times. So if you've got a curve rated for 40 miles an hour, you might find that you can get stuff through. You might find that you can get things through, or 30 miles an hour, sorry. You might find you can get stuff through there at 90 miles an hour without them going pop. Again, I wouldn't recommend that, but that's the rule of thumb. So that's probably why it just about survived.
We tried that in the U.S. With Frankfurt Junction, which is a 50-mile curve and a train at about 107 miles an hour derailing.
Yeah.
You can see that's twice the speed.
So what I've just finished that our first thing has just been finished. So I thought I'd explain what's going on, because someone in the chat, Blobby Tables, hello Blobby Tables in the YouTubes. Why are we reducing the radius of this junction? Well, what we're doing at this junction is, so we're basically changing what I call what permanent way engineers call the hand of the switches through here. So at the moment, we don't have super high-speed switches. It's 1872. You're struggling to get... you're not having switches much more than 50, 60 miles an hour. Certainly, 50 miles an hour. I think we've got 60 miles an hour switches at the other end.
Trains are what, going 60 miles an hour?
I mean, yeah, in real life, fast trains going 60 miles an hour. In this game, they're still going at about 30 miles an hour. So let's...
Good grief.
The game is dumb. In any case, the through route now, the high speed route essentially needs to be this new alignment that's been built, because this only carries you can see here that this is only really carrying kind of local and regional passenger services. So essentially, what's happened is that we've changed the hand, we've got rid of the old alignment, and kind of installed the switch on a curve here. So you can see we've got a nice contraflecture switch here. Enabling the kind of the regional stuff, the local stuff to kind of continue its journey on up to Paignton. But the new expresses, you can see automatically these new expresses are whizzing on up along this new...
I like that it automatically routes them.
Yeah, that's quite clever. So that's quite good. So you can see that's whizzing along there. So that's coming in, joining in here, and then continuing on to Shanklin up here. Here's Shanklin. Oh, by the way, for the benefit of everyone, you can see this new station has now been plumbed in. So it only took a year. It was only a year of these sort of Southern Railway services coming in and using this very shonky Shanklin Great Western. Besquicklehausen, I think you're looking forward to this one needing to upgrade again, aren't you?
I love that station.
It's just
excellent.
Just so constrained.
Yeah.
I imagine that the Great Central, whoever has that elevated station.
Yeah, they're lording it over everyone.
Like
yeah.
I'm not like just the way that the weird staggered platforms and awful throats. That looks like Penn Station.
Yeah, well, this is pretty much like almost every British flanking station looks like this. It's very few have kind of managed to be unconstrained enough to just be nice and neat sort of, flanking platforms and pretty. And the other thing, so yeah, we've got a stupid bit of freight here. It's kind of hemmed in the city. This bridge, it's just
that oil refinery can't go anywhere forever.
Yeah,
it will always be there, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Bisquickle pointed this out when we were on his stream. I'm really entertained by the fact that the oil refinery is completely modern, the parking spots and lights and all that.
Lights, like a lot of aluminium piping. Yeah.
Modern, everything.
No one put stuff in these until the 60s. They just didn't exist. What are they? Oh, and like the biffa, the biffa bin. Oh, just jeez, come on. Well, they built. It's just like lots of things in the game. It's just unfinished. There are other things where they have. I quite like the stations that they've got 3 different architectural stages for the stations. I quite like that, and this stream will get there eventually. I'm sure when we do some remodeling, we'll need to use the various different architecture types. But they could have done that for these as well.
It's so bizarre.
In TTD, the industries don't change, but they do sort of fit to any. The way they're done is like a refinery or whatever. I guess refineries-ish, but like a steel mill or whatever will look sort of like a steel mill could have in 1870.
Yeah.
And also like in 1970.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of timeless. That's a clever way to do the art, and like lots of things in this game, like some of the art's good. Like I've talked about the fact that as a permanent way engineer, I like this function. I like the ability to build quite realistic looking track alignments. I like the fact that it's speed focused, so that's kind of brings an element of realism. But in terms of and this the city growth is kind of nice, and there's some nice features, but so many things are just wrecked and just unfinished. Frankly, unfinished, I think, is the way to describe it. In this game, like just so many features unfinished. Like the bridges just don't make any sense.
And what is I don't understand. It's not even that hard to like with arches, like you just have like set arches. Like what's with the weird, like especially over water. I get it over tracks.
Yeah, like that. Okay, that functions. This does not. You know, it's
but like again, I get the idea of like, okay, you can't do it over like terrain, like there's weird like constraints. Like if you go to like roller coaster, like Planet Coaster or whatever, and you get like supports having weird sections of track built over half a park that is just nothing.
Yeah.
But like if you go to the water bridge with those weird like long, like why would you? There's no point in that. Just have like consistent arch spacing.
Yeah, it's just strange, and they could have changed the art to just. I know why it's like that, but it makes me angry.
Some of the choices, sorry,
yeah,
not to totally, but like I have a solo game or whatever, and I was thinking about this. I'm like, man, it's gonna be nuts when the Great Central Station has to extend, and we'll just like you can't have platforms elevated over tracks.
Yes,
so it's totally hemmed in.
It is, yes.
But like later in the game. Especially in the U.S. set, like the Acela, the high-speed rail trains that they have are locked lengths. There's no way to do, because my platforms are short, I'm just going to do, power car, 4 cars, power car.
Yeah.
It's like, sorry, here's the whole train, and it's too long for your stations.
Which I am looking forward to that, because again, that's a challenge that I'm looking forward to having to deal with, because it's going to be a mess. When and we don't know what happens to these stations. We don't know what might happen to these. That's kind of the fun. Is I don't really have a set plan. I'm going to just kind of play with the kind of the history and sort of think, okay, what kind of happened in real life, and then what's maybe going to happen. There are 3 stations in this city, right? I don't expect 3 stations to still be open in this city in, say, the 1970s or 80s.
For sure.
One or more of these.
It's disappointing that they because it seems that developers cut costs and assume the modding community would pick up the slack, and then someone else, and they know why they did it. Like, yeah, I get why they did it. It made it easier as developers, but like, it just looks really bad.
Yeah, they could just a little bit of extra. And I know there's a fantastic modding community, but some people can't play with mods. They don't have the computer that allows them to do it. I've played this. There are a variety of reasons why I'm playing this vanilla. One of them is because I'd have no idea how stable this is going to be in late game, as I kind of said earlier. But also, for me, in terms of accessibility for a playthrough, it's kind of nice to, sometimes when people have got loads of mods, it can be a bit intimidating to actually know what the game you're actually getting is if you decide to then play it. So I've kind of partly stuck with vanilla on that as well. But yeah, I think you just lose a lot in the developers having cut corners. Like, the game could have just waited another 3 months and they could have finished things. It's the same with the state capitalism mod on City Skylines. It's just unfinished. It's just huge elements of it that are clearly... There were more buildings. Sorry, the state cap... I'm quoting Roz now. The, what is it? Industries. What's the name of that DLC? The City Skylines DLC?
Industry. It's just called Industries.
It is just called Industries, yeah. That one is just not finished. There's just elements, there's just huge sections of it that just don't make any sense. Roads, the fact that everything goes by road is like a major part of it. Like, that's just not how industry and logistics works. Why have they not... Anyway, yeah, I could rant about that for ages. In any case, we've got sidetracked already. So... Here we are. So this is just a junction station, actually, a junction with the Southern Railway, going down to Harrogate. It's kind of less used now because there's the kind of their bit of railway that connects up that side. But there we go. We've got our a pretty massive viaduct. That's a huge viaduct there with some really awful arches. Just they don't work like that. So I think those are going to have to get...
The approaches look fine.
They're nice.
There's no reason for the middle to all of a sudden just go wonky like that. I just don't get it.
Just weird. So those spans are going to get replaced. Basically, I'm going to bin those spans and replace them with when the next type of bridge appears. They're going to get binned out and replaced.
I think it's supposed to be because the ship paths.
Yes, that's right.
So it has to span some grid sections to let boats sail through.
Yeah.
But Why not make them if they were consistently larger arches, it would be fine. It's the fact that the spacing changes.
Exactly. What is this? What is this? Bill Harvey, who's like one of the leading masonry arch people, possibly the leading masonry arch engineer in Britain. If he was watching the stream, he'd be shaking his head, because the thrust forces through these arches with their variable spans. It's what a mess. If you're trying to get Archie M, which is the modelling software, to model these, good grief, what a shambles. Anyway, there are flat arches, don't get me wrong. Brunel, stupid Brunel, but one of the things he did do quite well is his flat, I'm not a Brunel fan, his flat arch at Maidenhead, really nice flat arches over the Thames, really nice bridge, it's really good. But
you gotta take a look at some of the viaducts that like the Delaware, the Lackawanna built here. Oh, those are gorgeous.
Oh yeah.
We have good viaducts out here.
Yeah, we have some real, not even the ones that are disused on the Lackawanna cutoff, which is you'd love that as a permanent way engineer. The Lackawanna cutoff was, you would be fascinated by that. So basically, they had this old, slow, twisty route through the mountains, and they basically just did a thing where they did like the Japanese, the Shinkansen, but in 1910, where they just, through hills with tunnels, over valleys with 200-foot tall viaducts. And this was all in like the 1910s that they built all this. These massive. Let me see if I can find the Tunkahonic viaduct.
Meanwhile,
it's essentially what you've just built here, Gareth, right?
Yes.
It was a cutoff for a longer line that included a viaduct that would have been more expensive to build before service had started.
Exactly right. They can come in and stitch in extra bits. The Midland Railway did this in the UK, in GB. The Midland Railway did this with adding, when they four-tracked the line between kind of between London and the Midland Railway ran between London and Sheffield and other kind of parts, kind of ran through the East Midlands, so like up to Leicester, and the line kind of through Bedfordshire and kind of north there, so between Bedford and Leicester, kind of all these mundane sounding English places. They four-tracked from kind of London upwards when they were huge amounts of expansion in mostly freight traffic actually, and the new line was built actually broadly paralleling the existing line, except that there was a peak over Sharnbrook, which was kind of a summit of the line. It's not a mountain range, but kind of relatively speaking, quite steep. And it was too steep for the freight, so they actually most of the time they were paralleling the existing lines, but it comes off in a funny teardrop, having gone through a tunnel. So it's kind of quite interesting that teardrop then is how they flatten the gradient before then rejoining. It's anyone can go and Google it it's called the Wymington Diversion. And I was working on that when we were working on electrification of that line, which is still being paused. Stupid government. Really interesting. Yeah, it happens all the time, and in different kind of manifests differently. Not necessarily huge viaducts. Sometimes it's just something, sort of gradient leveling for a four tracking.
I put some photos of it in virtual trains if you want to.
Nice. Yeah, I'll drop in. Yeah, I'll drop in and have a look. Yeah. For everyone in the chat, I'll pull these all over into our Discord too soon.
There's also the one that I will remind me when I get to campus. The Northeast Corridor goes over this beautiful bridge over the Raritan River. It's the one. Oh yeah, I showed it to you the other day. It's the one, the massive gantries.
The hilarious combined gantries.
The PRR ones are tall to begin with, but then they added on to make them even more ludicrous. They're like 100 people in chat. So there's these someone's talking to DC Metro using their quarter of an inch different gauge.
Oh god, the chat's gone off on one. That's fine. Leave them to it.
Yeah, they're talking about broad gauge.
Broad gauge is cursed. Broad gauge was rubbish. It was an idiot. It was a stupid Brunelian idea. Brunel was the Musk of the Victorian era.
Someone's talking about the Brunel atmospheric railway turning horses into soup.
Yeah, soup like homogenate in under 2 minutes. See what I mean about crossover between, there's your problem, and here it's all happening. Right, so I need to work. We've moved, by the way, but just briefly.
Yes.
Well, we have now come up to this city, Stratford, and we're about to connect Stratford with the capital.
And all the British names.
Yeah, well, this is because we've done an imperialism on this island. So this was a nice,
yes.
this was a nice, I don't know, maybe kind of Caribbean island, somewhere very nice. But we've come in and done a colonialism on it, and just covered it in nasty infrastructure to just absolutely mineral strip this island. So yeah, we're doing social commentary too. Yeah, so for example, this is Lowestoft, which is like the main big city in the north now. Started off quite small, but actually because there's this big harbour here and it's kind of the top of the Great Northern Railway, so you can see this huge 4-track railway disappearing off. This is pretty busy now, and they want to build a main line to bring up to kind of connect up to Stratford, which is kind of the extreme end of the Great Western Railway's network. So their line goes off in this direction off towards Shanklin, actually, where we were earlier. Their main line does that. They haven't got the cash or indeed the interest to kind of extend that line, but to get through running from basically a quick way from Shanklin up to Lowestoft up here, the Great Northern Railway are going to build a new main line connecting up to Stratford. And again, we've got yet another terminal station with a horrifyingly complicated station throat. Just a real mess. I love it. And we're not going to do anything about that at this point because there aren't enough trains to necessarily warrant a more streamlined looking throat. Anyway, so what we're going to do is... sorry, I thought I'd just introduce what I'm doing. You can continue discussing on various bits and pieces of deliciously... of kind of interesting diversions. But I'll just to explain what I'm doing on camera or on stream for anyone who's watching. Anyway.
Yeah, did you rename the towns, or is this like a British name? Like,
they come with British names. Yeah, so they actually this was called Fenny Stratford originally, which is a weird name, so I just got rid of it and called it Stratford. You can change the names, but most of these names are the original names that the game put in. So when you're setting up these games, you can choose like a name set. So you can choose US names, you can choose British names, you can choose.
TTD has that with mods. Like the base naming set is like based off of England, I guess, but it's really funny.
Oh yeah,
because you get names like Trunding Hatton Ridge and stuff like that, just like completely unwieldy and comedic. It makes it hard to start then playing when they're like talking with other people. So like the last game that I didn't play in, they were using Pennsylvania names, which we're gonna do again tonight.
It's
Pennsylvania's got good names.
TTD is
you should do a TTD stream if we manage to rope you into our games.
It might well happen. It might well happen. You know, it's probably one for the new year. I think because tonight for anyone in the
Flunfing Bridge.
Say that again.
Someone said New Flunfing Bridge. That's a very TTD. Yeah, that's a kind of TTD name that you get.
Yep, nice. Right, God, I've got to now do the same thing I did earlier again. But with, of course, there's a blinking level crossing in the middle.
It makes sense that Chris Sawyer's Locomotion does this too, because Chris Sawyer made TTD, didn't he?
Ah. Oh, well, that would make sense. Yeah, it's like what is it? Is it a Civ based? No, not Civ. It's not Civ. Sorry, I'm speaking nonsense. Not Civ based. It's the Tycoon. It's like it is from all that original.
Yes, well,
it's the first one.
It was the first. It came before. It came before Roller. So the story is that he made Transport Tycoon and then wanted to improve the track laying. So he was working on that and like added gravity into it and found that was really fun to mess around with.
Hence,
and realized that like a game with like roller coasters and stuff would be more broadly accessible to the public than like in-depth transport management.
Yeah. Well, it's fairly incisive, hence why that was such a success, I suppose.
So Roller Coaster Tycoon came after Transport Tycoon, but to far more meteoric success.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, understandably. Absolutely zero signals on this little branch. Presumably just one line then. We'll worry about that in the future. Okay. That line is fine. The free train frequencies are something we're going to have to work out in the new year. For anyone on this stream, this is going to be the last stream of this year because I'm going to come back. I'll come back to it in January, but it's holiday time, so I'm not going to do lots of YouTubing while it's holiday time because I need to breathe and also not have square eyes. So this will be the last stream. So we're going to get a few bits and pieces done. I don't know how many years we're going to mash through. Some people get really ragey about how slowly I'm playing this. They're like, why are you playing it paused? It's because I want to vaguely kind of emulate the scale of railway operations you'd have in these years, rather than just like having one line and then it's 1920 by that point. So that's kind of why I'm doing this like this. Sorry for the people who rage about that, but others.
Oh, I forgot to explain that someone was asking what TTD was. It's Transport Tycoon Deluxe, and then OpenTTD is so it's an open source continuation of that game that I believe has been going on for what, like 20 years or something.
Yeah, like 2000 and like 20 years. So I've played
very
it
early 2000s, and it's been going strong with like a very good development community and stuff. Tons of mods and gameplay enhancements. For like 2 days. It's really impressive, and it's entirely free.
Yeah, I love
fairly
it. I adore
easy
it.
to set up and use. It is a great game.
It's I adore the concept of it. I haven't played it for I think I last played it like 12 years ago or something. Like it's that many years ago that I played it.
You're gonna be missing out on a lot of features and changes that they've made since then.
I'm gonna be lost. I'm gonna be completely lost, which is fine. I'll survive. But that'll be for the new year. We shall have fun in the new year.
Yeah, JGR's patch pack. Yep, that's what we use in our games on this little Discord server.
Nice. I did not want to do that. I want to do this. Come on, Road. There we go. Thank you, Road. Oh, it's been quite nice having you chaps describing things, and it means I don't have to think quite as much to entertain people on stream.
So
it's nice.
I love the multiplayer. Yes, the multiplayer in TTD is excellent. And
yeah,
I don't know if this chat member has played with the mod. We're using a mod that allows infrastructure sharing, so you can actually like we didn't really use it like that, but you can actually like if you really wanted to
running
you could, like,
rights
throughout.
Yeah.
You could, and literally, as part of the cost is like trackage rights is like one of the costs that you pay.
Amazing.
And then they'll pay you for like we built sort of just shared stations where you can transfer passengers between like network to network. But if you really wanted to get into it, you could essentially build as like one whole thing, and like which is like how the U.S. and probably the UK, I assume, also work. That you through run trains from one company to the other.
Yeah, definitely. You have some infrastructure that you'd have the infrastructure you're building yourself, but in a lot of cases, you're sharing infrastructure rights, sharing running rights. Yeah.
And you'll have through trains from like city A to city B via city C. That is, at city C you go on to the other person's network. Which very much that's like almost the most accurate you'd probably be able to get in any game like this in terms of reflecting the real world of how trains are run.
Yeah, that operational element is a lot. Like the fact that you've got that realism makes up for the fact that it's it's even chunkier graphics wise than like SimCity 2000. It's fine.
I find it endearing because at least it's like a consistent sort of little fun art, like pixely art style.
Yeah, definitely.
The fact that it's lasted 20 years. It won't age like Transport Fever, already.
This will age quickly, yeah.
And it already doesn't look like cutting edge graphics, but in 5 years or whatever, it's gonna be rough.
Yeah, definitely.
But TTD has been kicking around for 20, and it's still going fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's true. It's time, and that timeless element is why it's got such a following.
There are some modern like 32-bit. Graphic sets that are like really detailed. The only problem is it gets hard to use those with
multiplayer,
like all the add-ons you want, right? Because you'll have like an 8-bit tile set and it'll just look completely out of place. So I generally, the art is simple but effective. That is absolutely true. I just generally like to stick with the base graphics. There's a night set also in case you wanted night mode.
There is a night mode. Nice. That's one thing that this game doesn't have as well as a night mode, which is probably you can mod it in. I'm guessing there's a night mode mod somewhere out there.
So someone was saying there'll be flame wars when you intercept. So actually, you can't. The way they avoid that is you have to like build it together. You can't just cross someone else's line. They have to like put in the intersecting track.
Ah, okay, yeah. Nice.
So you can't do what railroads did in real life, which was like build a diamond and put a locomotive on it and leave it there.
Yeah.
There's one in Chicago, Wikipedia article about this. What is it called? Flange Wars? Yeah, Flange Wars. There's one in Chicago where they built the diamond, but then the companies they didn't want to cooperate, so they ran it as if either one didn't exist. They just completely ignored the other one's trains, which of course ended in a crash.
Oh my goodness me. I mean, the idea, bearing in mind like how safety critical and rightly so railway operations are.
This is like in the 1870s.
Yeah, just like the absolute radness of some of these. Some of these, the approach to running a railway is quite something. Quite something.
That I just found out this recent TTD game that they have timetables. Like you click on a station, and it shows you like timetable arrivals. And I was actually able to mess with it a little bit to like show like the names of the services and stuff. And it's absolutely charming to just
awesome.
watch it like spit out like at a major station, just like all the departures. And if you slow down the game enough, you'll actually get into minutes and hours versus like dayed arrivals, which is a little weird to see.
Yeah. So what's how does I can't remember, how does the how's time simulated in the game? Like, is it
the base time? Jay, do you remember how fast like the base time scale is?
Pretty quick, but we play. You can play with mods that change the.
We play the mod that really slows it down, so you can play like a game over like a week or two, versus the base scale. Like if you start in like 1950, you'll be like at 2020 like by morning.
Base scale starts earlier than 1950, I think.
Yes, but we like to start a little nice. I like that arch in the middle of the tracks.
Yeah, that's really good, isn't it? That's really good stuff there. Thank you, game. Really, really nice. Let's get the shift key.
The base game starts in like 1900 or 1910, I think. But we like to start a little later, and just then, because then you have like more options and everything isn't going 30 miles an hour.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we really slowed down by like 5 or 10 times slower.
Jesus Christ.
That looks fine.
I'm gonna go with 2 more notches downwards. It now won't work. No, that's
no. Oh, there you go. That's.
Oh, damn it! I just want it level. Please, it's happening. That's oh god. Just there. Oh Jesus. What a game, everyone.
Oh my god.
What a game. There, that is going to do. Actually, I want that to be curved there. Actually,
You just ended like the terrain also.
Yeah, the terrain in this isn't so. Some people, the terrain in this isn't too bad. I think it could be quite a bit worse. I don't know. You can get some quite nice looking. Like it kind of creates these nice angles. You can get it kind of looking kind of nice.
Someone said that you can make an open TTD map so realistic. And it's also the fun thing is people have made things like the Larry, Jay, you remember the Larry tool that like you can like use like GIS data and then import it and it will generate a map?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
that's like City Skyline style, right?
So like you could have a really realistic TTD map that was we did one of like New York back in like January that was like the New York metropolitan area.
Yeah, he figured out a great way to crunch data to generate maps. I think he released it, but it requires a little bit of knowledge for setup.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. So I'm in the process of doing that for City Skylines. I'm in the process of creating a York, as in actual York, what I'm living in right now, map to try and do a bit of a kind of this sort of thing, but with some history and talk about you. I'm not copying Franklin and Presidio Bay. Definitely not. It's more like York. It's more contemporary transport and kind of explaining urban planning a bit, but using York.
There is no copyright on historically informed City Skylines series, and in fact, they are basically the only ones I'm interested in nowadays.
Yeah, that's it.
It's Presidio. Are there others?
Yeah, well,
you have yours, right? The one that you do without. What's it? I know there's something from New York, and I'm blanking on it, and I feel dumb now.
Gramercy, that's old. I haven't done one of those in a couple years.
I remember finding like a Gramercy video like a year ago before I even knew you. And be like, and that's when I was like, I feel like I recognize this guy when you joined my Discord. And I was like, oh, that's why.
So yeah, the only ones I know are Franklin and Presidio Bay. Those are the 2 ones that I know.
There are a couple smaller ones. I'm totally blanking on what they are now. I'll let you know when I see the next episode.
Because I was trying to remember what. I mean, my introduction to all this was basically through Roz's loop video back in the day. That was my introduction.
That video.
Oh yeah, that was the one.
That was I had a similar. I remember. I think I watched like the first. Well, there's your problem, and then I watched like the loop, and then like the second one because it was last year, so it was only the first 2 episodes were out, and that sort of got me hooked.
Oh yeah. It's
Wild.
yeah.
All you Johnny-come-latelys.
I know, right? I know. Late to the party.
Talking to Justin as he was posting
Someone
Silverliners for City Skylines on Subtropolis.
You look up like different trains, and they're always from Do Not Eat. It's very funny. Like you look up just like Google Images like Silverliner 4, and like you'll get like the Steam page for the one for like City Skylines.
Jeremy, you are probably one of the very few people who just go and look up like Silverliner 4.
Arrow 3.
40 months.
Someone was saying that you even have in TTD you even have like economy settings, so you can have like recessions and inflation.
Really?
Yeah.
One thing that more simulation games need to have, and I kind of understand why they don't.
Because it's a pain to deal with. It's a pain to deal with, and nobody wants to do it.
City building game that's just always
one of the disasters. Yeah, like one of the disasters. Like if you have disaster switched on, financial crisis is one of them. That would be that would be really quite fun. I like the idea of that.
And like you get your tax revenue, like gets slashed in like a third or whatever.
I mean, we've seen with the pandemic, so many cities that were at some form of equilibrium have gotten screwed up enormously, or have. But just like, in general, I'd love a city building game. I talk about this on almost any stream I'm on. But like one where a national or global sentiment towards suburbanization would harm your city. Or one,
Yeah.
Like these
like
sort of
community,
things.
like community, like interests, something like that.
Like communities, but just there will be a period of time where no matter what you do, you will have reduced, or virtually no matter what you do, you and your city will have reduced, residential demand because people want to live low
outside
density.
of it, right? You could have a NIMBY mod for City Skylines where every time you try to build housing, people hate the government.
I actually want that really badly for City Skylines, or for any city builder. That's some sort of like every neighborhood, every district, whatever you do, whatever you make.
Where's my green movement opposing the construction of railways? That's the realism I want out of my. That's the realism I want. If I'm building a high-speed line, I expect the kind of the local Green Party to get really angry about it. That's
TTD has like the community rating thing.
Yeah, they have a town council.
Is that,
so if you do too much bulldozing, they'll be like, "All right, you're done. You can't do anything else here."
Yeah, the problem with TTD is that it's like really broken in that like you put down a bus stop and like a bus depot to like feed your train station, and now they immediately hate you. And there's like no way around that. Like there's no way to like cause minimal. The way you just do it then is you just drag over the entire town 9 times with the tree tool to get them to like you again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the classic.
You don't mind me. I'm just battling the game's road drawing.
Looking at that.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Feeling
Watch something
for you.
else. There's something else entertaining on, probably not this. Just there we are. That'll do. That'll do nice. That'll do me fine. Right. So what we've got here is we've finished it. That didn't take long. There we are. A fairly straightforward bit of mainline. As you'd expect, kind of late stage or kind of by the 1870s. The big stuff has kind of been done. So we've got a nice little bit of mainline there. We're probably going to start. So one of the things we need to do for all of the railway companies is change the service patterns, because at the moment all the service patterns are a legacy of like the companies that these railways have bought. Also, this is single track railway over this bridge, which is operationally hilarious. That's probably fine. So at some point I'm going to need to really get on all of that. Are there really no signals here? What the hell? Jesus.
What have you been
How
doing?
have I been running my railway as? What? Okay, well, that's probably fine. Everything there is... Oh, what's this? This is... Oh, okay. That's the correct direction. Let's do that. Is that right? Or you know what? Stuff it. I'll just put it at the end there. There we go. I have no idea how this railway is functioning without signals. What kind of what year is this? When was Armagh disaster? Anyone in the chat? When was the Armagh disaster? Because
What?
oh, that's the disaster which gave the railways brakes. Certainly in the UK. I don't know whether there's an equivalent in the US. ARMAGH.
Ah, I just couldn't quite tell what. Yeah, Armagh. There it is.
So that gave us that's famous for brake,
Yes.
for lock, block, and brake. So interlocking block signals and brakes on trains. That's a great idea. What year was it?
1889.
89. That's it. Yep, that's how long we ran railways. With brakes being optional.
The brakes are applied. The train did have continuous brakes, the non-automatic vacuum brakes. So that I think in the U.S. by that point actually, we had already moved to like the Westinghouse air brake.
You had
system.
Yeah.
So yeah, because you guys used like vacuum brakes absurdly long, didn't you?
We still do. Still have vacuum brakes are our primary braking system, which is fine because it means it's theoretically fail-safe, right? You have a system that if
So is the Westinghouse system because it's like reverse air pressure. When the pressure drops, the brakes apply, so you lose.
Yeah, that's the same we have here. So that it's I see what you mean. So sorry, yeah. So I don't know actually. I don't know enough about. So as the non-mechanical engineer, I don't exactly know what brake systems. Certainly now we have a system where the vacuum is required to kind of unapply the brakes. So the brakes with normal air pressure, brakes are applied unless you've twisted the stopcock. Yeah. But I don't know I don't know what alternative systems of braking would. A lot of the time in the 1870s as we are in game now, and in the 1880s you had a lot of trains that were just running on the train brake still. With like mixed, depending for passenger services and stuff like that.
Telling the UK companies, yeah, I figured that, but I know that vacuum brakes were common or still are common in the UK versus the US, where by like the 1890s, that Westinghouse air brake system pretty much was universal and still is.
Yeah. So thanks, Roaming Adocrat, for setting me right. Thank you. Yes. Lots of Tube uses Westinghouse still. There we go. There's some people who know things about trains. See, I'm a bad train nerd. I'm a better infrastructure nerd. You see. There we go.
So Westinghouse, the general principle is when it was first created. Actually, they were like it was the not fail-safe kind where you pressure increase, like apply the brakes, and then they create like the triple valve or whatever. Triple valve or whatever it is that reverses the airflow or whatever, the pressure, to get the brakes to apply when you decrease the pressure, and so that's what now is used, and so that's fail safe in that if you lose cars, if there's some sort of thing that tears the brake line, or you can't charge the brakes, they won't release.
Yeah, that. I mean, fail-safe is good. Like the rule that if a signal is showing nothing, you assume that means it's a red. So a blank signal is also a red signal. So if you pass a blank signal, that still counts as a signal passed at danger. It's a fail-safe mechanism, which is why. Well, that's certainly the rules in the UK. I presume it's probably the same as in the US. If there's a blank signal, it's assumed as a red.
Yeah, I know on the subway. So the subway, I was having a conversation with this in the RailNatter Discord. That like the subway signals, do not use them as a general guide of what the US has, because they're not.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
Most of our signals are speed based, as in like an approach medium signal will tell you you're taking the next interlocking at 45 because you're diverging. Ah,
interesting. Okay, yeah, that's clever. I mean, we're pretty okay, I'm going to get a lot of people shouting at me with this because I have lots of actual signaling people in the RailNatter Discord. But basically, if there's signaling was quite primitive in the UK for a long time. Russia was using in-cab signaling when we were still like rolling out semaphore, just changing it to track lights and sticks.
Okay, people's names in the voice call. It's Gareth, it's me, I'm Jeremy, and then Jay is the other one, B. Squicklehausen.
I'm still here. Yeah.
Hi. Sorry, I don't know how exciting the visual stimuli are currently. I'm like in full concentration on building a railway mode, so my chat's
Yeah, we're
dreadful.
just chatting.
Yeah. Actually,
Yes, the U.S. is speed control, and I think has been for quite some time. The exceptions are like rapid transit. So like the subway signals are much more analogous to the UK, where red is stopped, yellow is the next signal is stop, and then green is just keep going at whatever the posted speed is.
Yeah.
And then, so like on the subway, if there's a power failure, we have the trip arms that will release a valve, and dump the air and stop the train. So if you pass a red signal, it will stop the train.
Yeah, it's
So
actually a
if there's-
physical failsafe, which is pretty cool.
But you know this, that if there's a power failure, they're spring-loaded or pneumatically loaded so that the trip arms will go up if a signal is red by default and
Yep.
requires active force to drive the trip arm down and set the signal to
They're green. Yep.
Yeah, same as
yellow or
same as semaphores, where if the cable snaps, the thing drops into into the kind of the sort of do not proceed position.
Yeah.
Or if you're the Great Western and you're bonkers, you've got a counterbalance, so there's a weight, which means that it pulls into the up position, which is also stop, which is a bit confusing, but whatever. Great Western, you always like to do things upside down. Never mind.
So anyway, so in the subway you have the additional mechanical train stop will engage if there's any sort of power failures, or for whatever reason a signal can't clear due to whatever, you won't be able to pass it because it is an automatic stop. The default position of the signal is red, and the automatic position of the default position of the train stop, or the tripcock, which is the funnier word, is stop.
Yeah, it makes sense. Failsafe is good.
So the driver were running learning routes, or
Ooh, that's a good question,
I
Robin.
do
Denham.
yeah. Okay. So I do know that in special cases there. So for example, I know I don't know how true this is today, but I know generally mountainous, hard to control. So remember in the U.S. you have very long trains, which means that you require more skill. Obviously, any train control requires skill, but you need especially good skill in train handling when it comes to bringing things up and down over big steep grades. Because if you just willy-nilly throw around power, you will snap a train.
Yeah, which is not good, because then you have bits of train going different. It's bad, and also
Yes.
money. Also,
I mean,
you get
it
sacked.
happens. It happens. Trains will just sometimes separate, and it's just a headache because you have to stop. You have to recouple everything. Things are damaged. Then it can really screw stuff up. But yeah, so I think route learning is required on some stuff. I don't know. I'm not someone who I'd have to ask people, but I think. Yeah, actually, I think it is. I think it might depend on the railroad. It might depend on the territory. So I know over the summer, for example, I caught Amtrak was running. Amtrak normally runs into Penn Station in New York, not Grand Central Terminal. And over the summer, I caught a Amtrak running a special train that they ran back and forth 3 times over the viaduct on Park Avenue. I got some great shots of them with the skyline in the background. Because in the case that they need a detour to Grand Central, they need qualified engineers who can run into Metro North Territory and into Grand Central. So, apparently, I guess once or twice every 2 years or something, they will take a couple of engineers onto a 2-car train with engines on either end, just so they can do the qualification runs into Grand Central and out.
Yeah.
And I know because I went on a train chase up in the Poconos back in September with some friends. That was very fun. But one of the ones, he's a guy who works for the New York Susquehanna and Western Railroad, which is a small railroad, does some local freight up in the southern tier of New York. If you're looking at a map of the U.S., it's the long part of New York that goes across the top of Pennsylvania.
Okay, yeah.
And so they have operations there. So it's I don't know if it's a short line, but it's a smaller railroad. It's not one of the major ones. But he was saying that I think you do need to be qualified on parts of the trackage. So you can't just run wherever. But
Yeah, route learning is like a major. I mean, one of the things.
I know that there's a major thing in the UK.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you don't travel on the line if you haven't got if you haven't route learned it. Yeah.
Right. I don't know how true that is in the US. Though I do know there are occasions where you'll need like a pilot to take a train, like if Amtrak has to like detour over like some freight traffic that like doesn't have the same safety stuff, and they need like special. They'll have like a guy in the cab with them.
Oh yeah.
To handle all that.
So, oh god, I've managed to. We need something to make that bidirectional. Let me see what's going on here. I've got bidirectional running.
You do need to generally know signals. Like I know on the Long Island Railroad, conductors actually they are not just the ones to take tickets and stuff, but the conductors on the Long Island Railroad actually need to know the whole thing backwards. Because if the Long Island Railroad needs to do like reverse moves or like non-revenue reverse moves to move equipment around, they'll actually use the conductors for that. So they actually are required to know all that. And like on the subway, I know on the subway that you do have to know, you need to be wary of your signals because you have to know like at what interlockings, make sure you know your line for yellow over green if you're a D train, or yellow over yellow if you're not, because otherwise you'll go the wrong way.
Yeah. It's I mean, I'm just thinking of millions of RailNatter episodes on signaling internationally. I like an untapped. I've done one a week since I started
on just the different types of signals that we have in the U.S.
Yeah, it's
because we have ones that look like yours. There's just 3 lights. Well, you guys have what, 4 or 5?
We can have 4 aspect. Is the most you'll see.
Because you guys have what the yellow over yellow aspect. That's
yes. It's like it's just like
an
halfway between green and amber.
Yeah. Because so what we have is you have like Pennsylvania Railroad position lights that are literally no colors involved at all. That's the horizontal, vertical, diagonal. It's the best way I've heard it described. It's a visuals. It's a illuminated semaphore.
Okay. Yeah.
In terms of that horizontal is stop, diagonal is like approach, and then vertical is clear.
Yeah.
And then of course you put in a lower head with that, and all of a sudden you get a whole bajillion different aspects that tell you all you need to know. But then you'll have like the Conrail tri-lights that are like red, green, and yellow, but arranged in like a triangle. You have what's called Darth Vaders, which everyone hates, which are the modern signals that have like a hood, a long like straight hood over them that like to make them visible well.
Anti-glare hood. Yeah.
Yep. Which of course people hate because they're they replace nice. We have the searchlights, which I didn't realize you guys still had in some locations in the UK.
Oh yeah. We have everything. We have all kinds of old junk here. This is welcome to the wonderful world of our decaying railway network. Actually, our railway networks we've got all sorts of incredible modern stuff. We still lead the world in a few bits and pieces here and there, but also we have like extensive lengths of bullhead track from the 1910s. So it's a mixed bag.
Oh, nice.
It's a mixed bag.
Honestly, it sounds a lot like the U.S.
That's what I'd say. When I'm describing something in the U.S., keep in mind that, like, if I'm talking about, like, major, like, wow, this is so cool, and, nice high-speed crossovers, we're going to be talking about exclusively, like, the cream of the crop, passenger lines, and the busiest freight lines, because those will get decent investment, and, like, it's like in the West, you do get, concrete ties on nice, fresh rail with, like, 50-mile-an-hour crossovers, because, time is money when it comes to freight. The faster you move from Los Angeles to Chicago, the faster you can then haul things from Chicago to Los Angeles. But like, I know on the part of the Empire, which is the line from New York to Albany and then Albany to Buffalo, they actually have, it's upgraded to like 110 miles an hour in some part, which is pretty nice, because that's all pretty much legacy infrastructure and legacy like grading and stuff. The New York Central knew how to build a goddamn good right of way. That was their whole thing. But they have they still have like the searchlight signals, which I need to get up and see one day, because those are wonderful.
You've got time. Searchlights are still around.
Well,
We just had some mainline semaphores taken down this fall in the Southwest.
We've still got our mainline semaphores.
I mean, I would be. It's a stretch to call the Raton line a main line, considering that it receives a single Amtrak train, and the occasional BNSF like reroute or like maintenance train.
It's a main line.
It's a main line in terms that you have passenger trains still running on it.
It connects. I don't know. It's not a siding. It's not a branch.
Oh, interesting. So some of the many LED signals are in the searchlight form where 3 colors are made from one lens. I know that's common. I think I know Chicago is like absolute anarchy when it comes to their signals, because they're like 3-headed and like 6-headed. So like the home signal where you have 3 signals over 3 signals, but their aspects I believe can show up in any of the heads.
It's like there's all sorts. I mean, there's so much chaos, and it's the same in GB. We've got roaming Adocrat reminding me that my old stomping ground up in the northeast of Scotland, so around Aberdeen.
Really, they still have
that's still semaphores, and that's like the HSTs running 100 mile an hour HSTs, and it's all semaphores. It's good stuff. I mean
the Raton line out. So this is out in what is it, New Mexico or Colorado? Jay, do you remember?
I can't remember.
It's in. I know it's west of Denver, and it's like in the middle of like the high plains or whatever that part of the country would be called. They do get up to and it's also still all jointed rail there, which is actually pretty uncommon for main lines. You almost have exclusively welded rail.
Oh, yeah.
So they're doing like 90 with semaphores and main line and jointed rail. So I've heard from a friend who's taken Amtrak quite a bit. That is quite a bumpy ride, because you're getting thrown around on a superliner going 90 on jointed rail. That's probably from like the 40s. But that's something I want to get out there, because they're putting money into upgrading that, and so I really want to get because I mean, mainline semaphores and like jointed rail and all that is not a thing that you can find in the U.S. like anywhere else, I think, except like maybe there's somewhere else, but not with Amtrak, certainly not with passenger trains running on it.
It's the last sort of snapshots of joy that exist here and there, like little sort of shonky bits of rail operation. There are definitely people collecting that. Right, well, gentlemen, it's 11 o'clock here, local time.
My God.
I know, right? And frankly, it's time for me to go on holiday. So we've seen 2 bits of railway line. We haven't really talked much about what I was doing, but you've seen 2 bits of railway line appear there. So we've got our main line that we've just, or sort of our connecting line here, a nice regional line following the coast a bit, whizzing up and going into Stratford.
You did that bypass too.
And then the bypass, exactly, yeah. So where's this bypass? Yeah, here it is. You can see, you quite nicely see the bypass here. There's the bypass alignment. You can see quite clearly, I build my railways as any permanent engineer does, a series of straights connected by curves. And I do my very best to avoid too many compound curves. So generally I try and keep it the curve nice and consistent. And it kind of ends up with quite a nice looking, these alignments look kind of as they would. There's a lot of railway going on here. I think I sent a picture of the chaos, like this view here. It's just with all the stuff in Bradshaw and Richmond as well. Good grief. As you can imagine, the air quality in Richmond is not great. Really is not great. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just like triple lock. Good grief. Anyway, it only really remains for me to say... Besquickelhausen and engineer Jay and Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us. It's been really fun. Really
this
glad
is
to have you on.
A pleasure. I always love hanging out and just talking trains with people who know trains.
It's and hopefully for everyone in the chat, hopefully you've and everyone watching live, we've had 30-40 people watching live, which is nice. Hello to all of you.
Yeah, hello everyone.
Pleasure. And hopefully it's been enjoyable. I'm going to be back for the pre-recorded Rail Natters, so in a week's time. Me and my chum Alex Priestley talking about snow and how the railways and snow have had an eternal battle with each other. And then the week after that, so that's in 2 weeks, which I think is the 6th of January, we've got Roz on. Justin is joining to talk about the fact that US railroads can be good, actually. There's far too much British exceptionalism around nowadays.
Big, long freight trains.
Yes, exactly.
Big, massive freight trains.
So Roz is going to talk to us about big, massive freight trains, and also quite a few things. And particularly the orange
course.
and the orange and rubbish train. That cracks me up. That's a thing that we're gonna definitely be covering.
Q300, Q301. That's the symbol.
Also, the T1's getting a mention, so you know we're getting Mallard's getting knocked into place as well. So
Yes.
it's all happening. It's going to be a hell of a rail natter. Look
The
forward
T1 was the fastest locomotive to ever be built.
I
We
kind of
did
almost
it.
half
Keep
expecting
going down.
Liam. I'm kind of half expecting Liam to be like just shouting, "We got to the moon, baby!" at this point. Like that's
We'd absolutely be doing that.
yeah. In any case, it only remains for me to sort of. Oh, I never showed the map of York, did I? Oh, we'll have to do that next stream. It's fine. We'll try and do this again next time. And I'll give you a heads up if we're going to stream again. And this one works because it's a bit later in the evening, isn't it? So it kind of works for your time. They're a bit early otherwise. I think they're like your lunchtime when I stream them after work. Anyway, we'll work all that out in the future. For now, though, it only really remains for me to wave at people, which is what I normally do. I'm going to do it with. Wait, let's get a nice view down here. Let's get this off. Let's go down here and sort of press this button and look at some trains, and then there we go. This nice, busy, horrible junction with a hill in the background and some people wandering around in an increasingly growing city. Me in the corner of the screen, and We've got my Christmas hat on. I'm holding a box of Sainsbury's mince pies, and I'm waving. Have a happy rest of the year, everyone. Enjoy the rest of this horrifying 2020
Yes, happy
apocalypse. Have a good holiday, everyone, and have a happy Hogmanay as well. And I'll see you live again in January. Cheerio, everyone. Cheerio. Thanks for those in the chat. Thanks to those who've joined from Discord. It's been a fun one. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.